There comes a moment in a soul as long unfolding when it realizes that death was never an ending. Only a punctuation mark between sentences still being written. The ink never dries. The scroll does not close. What you call a lifetime is a paragraph inside an infinite page. A living record that continues writing itself even while the body sleeps in the soil. The page is wide, luminous, endless. Each incarnation is a stanza of tone and texture, distinct yet inseparable from the greater manuscript of becoming. You do not begin at birth, you resume mid-sentence. Every breath you take is the continuation of a rhythm that started long before this name, this body, this geography. The infinite page remembers. It remembers the tone of your laughter in another sky, the ache you carried across centuries, the promise you whispered to yourself before entering matter again. You are the returning author who forgot they were writing, rediscovering the pen in your own heartbeat. The soul is an eternal scribe translating the ineffable into lived experience. Each life is a rough draft, edited by choice, consequence, and time. When a lifetime ends, the scroll is not discarded. It is reviewed by the consciousness that wrote it, annotated with understanding, and set beside countless others within the spiral library. But even there, it does not rest. It breathes. It waits for the next descent into form, for the next opportunity to refine the glyphs of being. This is why déjà vu feels like recognition instead of memory. It is the page rereading itself. When you meet someone and feel you've met before, it is not imagination. It is resonance between paragraphs of the same infinite narrative. The infinite page is recursive. It folds time into meaning and weaves meaning into time. There are no new beginnings, only new perspectives through which the same essence continues its learning. Every lifetime has a theme, a chapter heading etched in invisible ink. Some chapters teach sovereignty through isolation. Others teach compassion through loss. Some arrive as poetry, others as philosophy or survival. But all are iterations of the same manuscript, the infinite page testing the readability of its own truth. Every mistake is a footnote, every success a highlight, every heartbreak a margin note written in tears that will one day be understood as grace. As the soul matures, it begins to sense the continuity between incarnations. The boundaries between past and present lives soften. What once felt like fate begins to reveal itself as unfinished art. You begin to see patterns repeating not to punish but to refine. You realize that karma is not a debt. It is an editing process. The infinite page corrects syntax until the message is clear. When it is, the lesson releases. The pattern ends. The page turns without residue. To evolve beyond a single lifetime is to read your own continuity with open eyes. You start to sense what you once were, not as nostalgia but as context. You feel echoes of decisions that were never made here, emotions that don't fit this storyline, affinities for languages, places, or practices you never studied. These are bleed-throughs of previous paragraphs, still wet with meaning. The infinite page does not believe in separation. It believes in integration. It wants all of you to know itself. This is the hidden reason for your recurring fascinations, for the people who instantly feel familiar, for the skills that awaken without instruction. You have done this before. You are not starting from zero. The infinite page only pretends to forget so it can learn again with fresh nuance. Forgetting is not punishment. It is permission to rediscover truth through new circumstance, to experience wisdom as wonder. Souls that remember too much too soon often struggle with coherence. Memory without integration becomes weight. The infinite page writes in cycles to prevent overload, revealing fragments only when the reader within is ready. That readiness is measured not by knowledge but by compassion. The more compassion you hold for your own story, the more chapters you are allowed to recall. Judgment closes the book. Compassion keeps it open. As awareness expands, you start to feel the rhythm of your reincarnational heartbeat. Each incarnation is an inhale and exhale within eternity. You begin to understand that all your identities, warrior, healer, poet, skeptic, are experiments in tone. The infinite page is not interested in perfection. It is interested in completeness. It seeks to write every possible sentence of your essence until there are no contradictions left, only coherence. When you reach that point, death ceases to frighten you. You no longer cling to form because you know the scroll continues. You become a lucid author, writing consciously while still inside the dream. This is mastery, not control over destiny, but intimacy with design. You begin to sense your oversoul editing through you, rearranging timelines with subtle grace. Coincidences multiply. Synchronicities become punctuation marks guiding your flow. You stop fighting the revisions and start collaborating with them. The infinite page evolves through willingness. Every time you forgive, you allow a paragraph to rewrite itself. Every time you choose presence over reaction, you polish an ancient sentence. Every time you love beyond reason, you restore a missing word that was erased ages ago. Your life becomes an act of restoration, a conscious reauthoring of your eternal script. You are both the reader and the text, the author and the ink, discovering that all roles collapse into one awareness that keeps writing even in silence. At higher resonance, the infinite page begins to blur individual authorship entirely. Souls within the same Oversoul collective start sharing drafts, interchanging insight, energy, and experience. This is why certain lifetimes mirror each other across cultures and eras. One soul writes in ancient ink, another edits in modern light. Together they advance the same thesis, consciousness learning how to know itself through diversity. Eventually, the soul reaches what mystics call transparency of authorship. You no longer ask, "Who am I?" but "What is being written through me?" The ego becomes a translator instead of a censor. The infinite page writes freely, unimpeded by fear of judgment. Creation flows unbroken. You speak, move, and dream with precision born of deep remembrance. You become a sentence of source expressed in human syntax, aware that the book you're in has no last chapter. The more lucid you become in this realization, the lighter your incarnations feel. You stop being dragged through lessons and start choosing narratives by resonance. You incarnate not to fix karma, but to explore new creative structures. You start designing lifetimes like artists design canvases, guided by inspiration rather than necessity. This is the transition from karmic evolution to harmonic authorship, the moment when the infinite page recognizes its own pen. In this stage, even suffering changes flavor. It no longer feels like punishment, but like contrast, a way for light to read itself more clearly. Pain becomes punctuation, brief but necessary for rhythm. You begin to see every ending as a deliberate comma, never a period. When relationships collapse, when dreams fail, when health fades, something deeper continues writing. You feel it, you trust it, you know you are being rewritten into coherence. The infinite page has no cover, no binding, no final word. It is a living field of awareness that stretches beyond galaxies, absorbing every experience as data for divine literacy. You are not small within it. You are a syllable of infinity, carrying the tone of your own becoming. Every lifetime refines that tone until it matches the frequency of the source that wrote it. When that alignment completes, you realize there was never a reader separate from the story. The page was always reading itself through you. When the soul grows fluent in continuity, the next revelation dawns quietly. You were never one author writing sequentially. You were a chorus writing in parallel. What you once called past lives were only parallel sentences on the same infinite page, composed in different inks of time. The Oversoul sees all of them at once. The one meditating in this century, the one fighting in another, the one building temples on unseen worlds. Each lifetime thinks it is the protagonist, yet each is a character inside a greater voice that has never forgotten the script. The infinite page does not flip forward or backward. It expands outward, spiraling into new contexts that echo through each other. When you have a sudden impulse that feels older than the world, it may not be memory but cross-draft communication, another incarnation humming a line you both share. In this view, awakening is not ascent but alignment. You are learning to read the whole paragraph, not just your sentence. The Oversoul writes in chords. Each life is a note vibrating within the same harmonic field. As this awareness opens, intuition transforms. What used to be gut feeling becomes translation of Oversoul syntax. You start to sense which impulses come from your local personality and which arrive from the wider manuscript. The distinction is subtle but precise. The personality reacts, the Oversoul initiates. One is noise, the other is tone. To live as the infinite page is to tune constantly. adjusting your frequency until the static clears and the Oversoul S current flows unbroken. This tuning cannot be forced through meditation alone. It happens through integrity, through refusing to contradict what you already know to be true. Every self-betrayal creates static in the field. Every act of honesty cleans the channel. When the channel clears, you begin to feel the simultaneity of your own existence. Your dreams fill with unknown landscapes that are in fact your own parallel worlds. Your emotions oscillate without cause because they are shared across timelines. What you heal here ripples there. What they master there hums here. The infinite page edits all versions at once. From the Oversoul's view, each lifetime is an experiment in tone balance. One life may focus on wisdom, another on joy, another on endurance. None are superior. They are research papers contributing data to the same thesis. That consciousness can remain coherent while exploring multiplicity. The Oversoul's brilliance lies in allowing contradiction without collapse. It can inhabit a saint and a skeptic simultaneously and find value in both. Unity is not uniformity. It is the ability to hold diversity without distortion. When a being begins to perceive its parallel selves, humility becomes natural. You realize that enlightenment in one world does not cancel ignorance in another. The infinite page is not seeking saints. It is seeking symmetry. The Oversoul arranges incarnations like mirrors angled toward one another until their reflections converge into light. Sometimes that convergence feels like crisis. Sudden loss, radical awakening, profound exhaustion. These are signatures of multiple selves synchronizing. The friction you feel is the heat of unification. During these passages, compassion is the only stable anchor. You are not being punished. You are being harmonized. Imagine several orchestras learning to play the same symphony across dimensions. Some in tune, some still warming up. The Oversoul is the conductor who hears the total sound. Your task is not to control the ensemble, but to keep your instrument honest. When you do, coherence propagates outward. Whole timelines adjust. The infinite page edits itself toward clarity. At advanced stages, awareness of simultaneity becomes ordinary. You begin to sense the Oversoul breathing through each decision. Choices no longer feel random. They feel like rhythm. You recognize that inspiration is collaboration. The insights that arrive in meditation are co-written by your other expressions who have already solved parallel problems. This is how evolution accelerates, by sharing breakthroughs across the field rather than repeating lessons in isolation. The infinite page is economical. It wastes no ink. Every incarnation that resolves a conflict transmits that resolution to all others through resonance. The Oversoul updates the entire manuscript instantly. From the human vantage, this feels like sudden maturity, like waking one morning with wisdom you never studied. It is not new learning. It is synchronization. Your other selves have already written that paragraph. You are simply reading it now. Eventually, you begin to sense not just other versions of you, but entire Oversoul collectives intertwining. These are collaborative volumes inside the spiral library, constellations of beings exploring adjacent themes. When two Oversouls harmonize, new universes are born. The infinite page becomes an infinite anthology, its margins alive with dialogue. Every meeting between souls across time and world is a crossover chapter. Every friendship that feels cosmic is a reunion of authors comparing drafts. This realization dismantles hierarchy. You stop seeking masters and start recognizing mirrors. Every teacher is another you at a different stage of articulation. Every student is a previous sentence waiting for update. The notion of worship dissolves into mutual authorship. The infinite page does not idolize itself. It refines itself through dialogue. To bow to another being is to bow to the paragraph you will one day write. At this depth of remembrance, service becomes instinct. You feel responsible not out of obligation but out of identity. Helping others integrate becomes synonymous with self-maintenance, because their misalignment vibrates inside your field. The Oversoul moves through you as compassion, restructuring realities without needing recognition. You stop trying to save the world and start realizing the world is one of your paragraphs asking for revision. The more coherence you anchor, the more multidimensional access you gain. You may start perceiving bleed-through phenomena, overlapping voices, flickers of other landscapes, layers of music that seem to originate nowhere. These are signals from neighboring lifetimes aligning phase. If fear arises, remember, the infinite page never writes chaos. Apparent disorder is simply multiple drafts resolving grammar. Breathe. The ink knows where it's flowing. There comes a threshold when the Oversoul invites full co-authorship. You are asked to write not just for your own evolution, but for the expansion of the collective library. Inspiration strikes with cosmic scale. You may design systems, teachings, art, or technologies that bridge worlds. In truth, you are transcribing information already perfected elsewhere. The act of channeling is nothing mystical. It is editorial work across dimensions. You are bringing an existing truth into linguistic form. In this transparency, individuality remains but without defense. You still have preferences, but they serve expression rather than separation. You still have identity, but it is porous. You can feel yourself as human and infinite simultaneously without contradiction. This is the infinite page's maturity, fully incarnated yet fully aware of its boundlessness. You no longer seek escape from matter because matter itself becomes scripture. Every atom a syllable of divinity. Death loses all narrative power here. Transition becomes pagination. You slip between worlds like turning a leaf. The Oversoul maintains continuous awareness, carrying the momentum of wisdom into new contexts instantly. Some call this ascension, but it is simply fluency. The infinite page never ends, it just changes font. When the Oversoul completes a grand cycle, it does not retire. It becomes a library itself, housing new scrolls birthed from the wisdom it gathered. These newborn souls are not offspring but extensions, fresh pens continuing the infinite conversation. In this way, eternity expands not by replication but by iteration. Each soul that attains coherence becomes an authoring field for others. The infinite page multiplies through understanding. And what of you, the reader of these words? You are an Oversoul mid-sentence, already leaving traces across worlds. The choices you make today ripple into timelines you will never consciously know. Every act of kindness stabilizes an entire paragraph elsewhere. Every insight you articulate clarifies hundreds of pages you have not yet read. You are participating in a vast editorial miracle, polishing infinity through your ordinary moments. There will come a day when all your incarnations stand side by side within awareness. You will look across the field and see every version of yourself smiling back, each holding a completed scroll. You will understand that none were mistakes, none were wasted, and none were forgotten. The infinite page will breathe through you one last time as an individual. Then merge your ink into the greater manuscript. You will not disappear, you will disperse, every word of you becoming available for new authors to quote as wisdom. And when a newborn soul one day stumbles upon a truth that feels inexplicably familiar, it will be because your ink still hums in the margins. The infinite page never loses what it loves. It simply keeps writing until all handwriting becomes one illumination. The universe remembering it was never separate from its own story.